Hello, my friends. I'm Tammy Zonker, host of the Intentional Fundraiser podcast. I have some exciting news for all you fundraisers and major gift officers. This October 13th through the 15th, join us for the Modern Institute for Charitable Giving's Major Gifts Fundraising Program. Save your spot today and get 3 days of certified, high-impact training packed with cutting-edge strategies and time-tested wisdom designed to help you scale faster, ask bolder, and raise bigger gifts with confidence. I'll be there leading sessions called Art of the Role Play and Securing the Visit and Making the Ask and Thinking Bigger, Bolder, and Braver. I'll be joined by some of the most accomplished major gift fundraising experts in the sector, like our amazing Dean Doug Dillon, Cherry and Koshi, Dr. Russell James, Maya McGill, Jeff Spitko, Birgit Burton-Smith, Ashley Nall, Coach Tivy from Practivated, your AI-powered practice partner for making big asks, plus other incredible leaders in the field. This is your chance to learn directly from the very best. If you've ever struggled with major donor prospects ghosting you, felt anxious making big asks, or wished for more qualified prospects in your pipeline, and so much more, this seminar is for you. You'll get practical AI-powered tools and proven strategies to help you build confidence, uncover new prospects, and turn maybe later into a six-figure yes. Plus, we'll show you proven ways to keep your donors connected and engaged for the long term. Seating is limited, so don't wait. Learn more and reserve your spot today at modernicg.com and unlock advanced major gift fundraising training trusted by over 12,000 alumni. Plus, you can earn 15 CFRE points toward your certification. That's modernicg.com. I can't wait to see you there.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach to creating a successful fundraising strategy and plan.
People are nervous, right? It's a big deal. We're raising $10 million, even if we're raising $1 or $3 million, depending on the size of the org.
Major gift fundraising is not deadline driven. It really is probably the only type of fundraising, along with planned giving, that is not deadline driven.
AI comes on the scene that's affordable, accessible, that can provide insights and personalization at scale.
That's the first core element of this fundraising engine or funnel, is making sure that the top of your funnel, the beginning of your fundraising process, you are in front of the right people.
What do the people we serve need? And how do we open the door to help them get there?
What happens a lot of times is we get this discomfort or this fear, and our brain tells our body to stop.
We can acquire donors and we can automate everything. And that's where I worry, at least personally, around the perils of AI, that it would remove humans from the interaction.
This is the Intentional Fundraiser podcast.
Welcome to the Intentional Fundraiser podcast. Today, I'm talking with my good friend, Ken Miller. Ken is a dynamic speaker, author, trainer. He's a CFRE, a consultant, and as the president of Denali FSP Fundraising and Grant Consultants, he leads transformative fundraising strategies, empowering nonprofits across all the sectors, all different types of missions and types in our sector. He is recognized for his dynamic speaking style, his genuine, authentic way of being. He engages audiences with his deep knowledge of fundraising, his best practices, major donor relations, nonprofit leadership, and quite frankly, as you'll hear, a whole lot of inspiration. In addition to being a frequent conference speaker, Ken is an AFP certified master trainer, has served on the AFP Global Board. He presently serves on the AADO Board, the African American Development Officers Network Board, and is co-founder of Men of Color in Development. Known for his commitment to nonprofit excellence and ethical standards, he combines his love for teaching, mentoring, and community impact into every speaking and every training engagement, leaving a lasting impression on everyone who participates and hears his message. So today we're talking with Ken about his beautiful book, Becoming Ken, One Black Man's Journey from Ivy League to Prison and Back Again. Like, wow, Ken, wow. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you, Tammy. I'm so looking forward to it.
Oh, me too. I mean, I've known you for years. I think we first met when I spoke at the Alaska AFP chapter. And we've run into each other at conferences where we're both speaking since then. But honestly, reading this book gave me a whole nother level of respect and inspiration and really insight into how remarkable you really are. So thank you for being so generous to share your story with all of us. Tell us why it was important to you to write this book.
It was important to me for a few different reasons. One is I'm a big believer in integrity. And what I mean by integrity is that there's an alignment between what I say and what I do. So over the years, many people say, you need to write a book, you need to write a book, you need to write a book, because they would hear portions of my story and then they would have some interest or thought that it needed to be shared if I was willing to do that. So I would say, sure, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book. And that book took me almost 3 years to write, which is interesting because I have 3 more books coming out this year alone.
Wow.
And they're going to be a lot quicker than this last one. But so that was one. 2, I believe I have some skills and or unique aspects about how I communicate. And what I mean by that is that I do not have any secrets, as you can probably saw in that book if you had an opportunity to read it. I don't have any secrets when it comes to me. Now, others that interact with me, I'm not going to talk about them, but about me, I have no secrets, no secrets. And that's unique. That's not unique. It's rare because most people keep some things close to, and I have no problem with that. It's just what I had to do for me to be emotionally stable and to circumvent whatever the difficulties that I had to let go of some of my secrets. So I'm very, very open, which is a little different from authentic, but I'm very, very open and I can communicate that. And maybe that might inspire someone else to not to go on stage and talk about it or put it in a book and communicate it, but at least talk to one person or a counselor or a pastor or a trusted advisor or a good friend and take away the power of the negative secret.
I love that. I love it. So, Ken, what do you think your story teaches us about the complexity of the human experience? And why specifically does that matter for our listeners, fundraisers, and nonprofit leaders?
I think there's a couple things that at least we can speak on this question. Number one, I wanted individuals to take a look at someone that had everything. And when I mean had everything, when I graduated from Dartmouth College, Ivy League, I'm 6'2", I smelled good, I looked good, and I talked well. I did. I've modeled. That's a whole nother world. I think it might be in the book. But I had a lot going for me. And so sometimes we look at individuals and say, that woman or that man has it all together. His life must be, no pain or no discomfort. But behind the scenes, back at home or back in their life, there's a lot of challenges and discomfort and pain in their life. So we can't, we say that term, and I don't like cliches, but judging a book by its cover. By looking at the external, we can define what is happening internally, spiritually or emotionally with that person. We can't. And also, a lot of times when we have situations where the individual has a situation, let's say that they go into drug addiction or they go into incarceration, it is a product of their upbringing. That was not a product of my upbringing. I grew up in a very, very good upbringing. I'm talking about at least financially and academically and things of that nature. So again, we can't judge a person or even where that person is at that moment just by looking at them. And that's something I really wanted individuals to see. And then I just wanted to see that a lot of people have seen my successes. I've had a lot of successes in the last 10 years, but they don't know what was the driving, what was the motivation, and also what I had to deal with just to get to this point. And if I can do it, 3-time convicted felon, 3 times, I've been in prison 3 times, 20 years on the streets, homeless. If I can do it, and I'm not saying you can do it just because I did it, but you can do it. Anyone that's listening, you can do it.
Yeah. So you, as you've shared, you came from privilege. You've had some incredible highs and some devastating lows. How can fundraisers develop the kind of empathy that truly helps us see people beyond their circumstances or those experiences, whether we're talking about donors or colleagues or those we serve? How do we develop that kind of empathy and not judge books by their cover?
Oh, that's a great question, Tammy. So let me give it a shot. One, if you so believe, have a foundation in a spiritual entity, whatever your choice is, that alone can provide a lot of empathy, a lot of understanding of a person is in their journey, whether it's a specific situation or you've seen over time. Number 2, remain grateful and remain in gratitude. That is one of the driving forces outside of my God that drives me is I am so fortunate and so grateful of the life that I inhabit, that I live, that I'm in this body on this walk. Number 3, and I talk about this at times, understand and manifest love. Understand and manifest love. That's what empathy is. It's just another flavor of love. Okay. And what I mean is love for mankind. We talk about philanthropy. What is the definition of
Love of
philanthropy?
mankind.
Love of
Exactly.
mankind. So, if you truly believe in philanthropy, it will be easier for you to be empathetic. But I just want to speak to one other aspect of this. I've seen people who are tremendously empathetic of their donors, tremendously empathetic of their leadership. But are we empathetic of our colleagues horizontally and or those that report to us? I had a difficulty with that when I first started in leadership in the fundraising world. I treated, of course, my donors and my leadership a lot kinder than I treated those that reported to me or were at, quote unquote, my level on the corporate structure. And I had to learn that lesson, and I did. I believe we are all children of God. And so I treat everyone pretty much the same. I have 0 resentments in my life, period. 0. There's no one I resent.
That's so powerful.
It's so true. It's my truth.
I think you and I, you don't have to, please don't say a number because I'm going to confess, I think we're in the same ballpark. All right.
On
I think
age?
we're about the same age. I think we're about the
Okay.
same age.
Well, I have no problem saying my age. So let me tell you a quick one, Tammy. I just have to, it's just a little funny one.
Tell me.
My mother taught me when I was about, 12 or 13. She said, Kenneth, you never ask a woman her age or her weight. And I've lived by that, or look in her pocketbook or purse.
Yes.
Those 3 things. This is when I was 12 years old and don't do it anymore. I never had.
Well,
So
she was a
mom's
wise
word.
woman, let me tell you. She's a wise woman. But I was thinking that we kind of grew up during the Jack Welch corporate leadership phenomenon. The books where he wrote,
Yep.
the leadership style was command
GE.
and control.
GE. Yeah. General Electric. Yep.
General Electric, exactly. And so it really was a time when, we were trained, like it was command and control, which isn't necessarily empathetic and respectful and loving like we are to our donors, like we are to our leadership. And so those, some of those lessons we have had to unlearn through the years, right? I mean, fundraisers are doing incredible work, sacred work, and connecting, the wisdom of communities and the generosity of supporters. And you're right. I mean, it is love. And I've never heard it said the way you said it, that empathy is just another version of love.
Yeah.
It's just another expression of love. And I just think that's so beautiful. Ken, in the book, you described prison as a place of both reckoning and rebirth.
What lessons did you learn about dignity and trust in the human connection that apply to the profession of fundraising and the authentic relationships that we aim to build with our donors and colleagues and community members, including our service and program participants?
There's a lot to unpack there. So first of all, you can learn anywhere you can learn. And I'm talking about learn positive methods of interactions with others, self, and God. And those are the three entities that you're in communication with: external, internal, and spiritual. I learned, and I had to learn and literally learn on the last time I went to prison. So I went to prison the first 2 times. And unfortunately, all I wanted to do was be a better drug dealer when I got out. Okay. Never was going to happen just by the negativity of that world. And it's not a world that you want to be a better. Okay. So let's put that off to the side. Third time I go into prison, I want to be a different person coming out. I had 3 years to work on that. They allowed me room and board for 3 years. And it's another thing. It's a beautiful thing to be able to chuckle or find humor and things that many people would find negative. But I've said this, and I said it in my book, I say it from the stage. The best thing that happened to me, one of the best things that happened to me, is that I was incarcerated for 3 years. Okay, so now we're here. And we talk about how do we find trust and dignity in our relationships with others. And that's a very interesting concept because trust is not the largest word or the most common word you'll use in prison. Because by nature, we are individuals that are broken. We are individuals that are coming off of substance, chemical misuse. We are individuals that look at the world in a specific us against them, which is not trust. Okay.
Polar opposite.
Polar opposites. But if you look in the right places, you can find trust. So I'll give you an example. I came in there, I knew I needed to work on 4 things. And this is 4 things that every human being needs to work on, except my tank was low in all these areas. So physical, went to the gym, worked out, great. Intellectual, my brain had not been used. And I just looked a couple weeks ago. 1 year, I read 160 books in 1 year while I was incarcerated. What else am I going to do? I worked on the intellectual. Then the 2 big ones were spiritual and emotional. And the one I really want to talk about is emotional. Because of things I had done on the street, I was shame-based. You saw it in the book. And I needed to take away the shame. I needed to lessen, maybe not take it away, but at least lessen it. Because if not, then there was a tremendous amount of self-hatred and low self-esteem. And so I went to a counselor because I remember I had secrets. The secrets I didn't want anybody to know. And I went and shared it with one person, the counselor, which was a civilian. And that opened the door to then sharing with a small group. But the key thing is I grew my trust. And what is trust? Because I talk about this subject. Trust is a belief in a perceived future action. That's what trust is. So if I trust that you'll go to the store with my $3, what I believe is that there's a future action in the future that I believe is going to happen. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but I believe it's going to happen. When we do marriage vows, we have some trust involved. Okay? Belief in a perceived future action or inaction. But that's what trust is. So we learn, and I came out learning that I could trust again, because on the streets, there's very little trust. And a lot of times, whether you're on the streets or you're in a substance misuse problem, we can learn not to trust by our family, by our partners, by our colleagues, by our friends. They belie our trust, our belief in a perceived future action. So I learned that trust. And then I'll just do one quick: dignity. My next book that I'm writing is on respect. And it's going to be powerful, on respect and disrespect. And a part of respect is dignity towards your fellow human being. Because that's what I'm talking about is respect of humans. And I learned respect. You have to learn respect and you have to learn dignity in your relationships with other men in the penitentiary, or there will be repercussions. Okay. There will be repercussions. And there are rules. It's just like any other community. There are rules. There's rules in your family dynamics. There's rules in your marriage. There are rules when you go to the company or the corporate boardroom, or when you sit down for a leadership meeting, or if you sit down for a one-on-one with a major donor, with your executive director or program director. There are rules, and the sooner
Spoken and unspoken, right?
yes, but I'm a big one on spoken. That's the problem. That's one of our difficulties in our relationships with others is there's too much implicit, whereas there needs to be more explicit. So anyway, I learned the rules there. And there was some struggle when I came out, because what we do is this. We internalize the rules from our family. We internalize the rules from our partner or husband, wife, whatever we may want to call it. And then we bring those rules into an environment that they're not playing by those rules. Because what we're playing is a script. We are playing out a script in these relationships with others. And what I had to find out is the scripts that worked on the streets or in the penitentiary did not work in what we call the civilian world. Really, it's my world today. So I had to rewrite a few scripts, and there's a way to do that. I could go into depth on that, but there are ways to rewrite the scripts. And that's what I did. And so now I treat people with dignity and respect, because they're a little different, but they're very closely related.
So help us apply the spoken and unspoken rules that exist between donor and fundraiser, and particularly in the space of power dynamics. And we don't really talk about that. Of course, there is now a fundraiser bill of rights, but it's not as if we talk through that with our donors and have them sign it. So how do we navigate? What lessons have you learned that could help our listeners who might be pushing up against some unwritten rules and scripts around donor expectations and power dynamics?
Interesting question. I'm going to explain why it's very interesting for me. Number one, I'm not a woman. I'll just put it right out there. I'm not a woman. So I don't have to deal with, and I'll just put out the sexual dynamics of major donor work with a male. But I've been around, and I've heard many stories from people that are close to me. And then I've heard stuff at the AFP level. And that's one of the reasons why we came up with the Fundraiser Bill of Rights. And of course, we've always had the Donor Bill of Rights. Okay. Understand, number one, first of all, I would say read those, understand those. Those are what we would say best practices, and understand a little bit also from the fundraiser side and the donor side. But this is the part I would like to say is that every fundraiser needs to have someone to turn to. Usually it's someone with more experience. I was going to say someone that's more seasoned, but a lot of times we just need experience, because you could be a 40-year-old fundraiser, and I'm far from 40, a 40-year-old fundraiser, but you've been doing this for 15 years, okay? Whereas you could be new in this field and you're 47, 48, whatever it may be.
Right.
Turn to that person that's seasoned, that you respect, okay? And trust, and turn to them. And then push comes to shove, you can always go to AFP Global if you have an ethical question or concern. That's partly or one of the aspects that I always look at in what is that relationship, because there's so much dynamics. I know you've done some work in this area, but there's so many dynamics. And I just so respect women that have to deal with some of the things. I've never had to deal with that. Never. I've had to deal with the racial. That I have. I'm a Black man, and I had to deal with racial, not slur. It was a slur. Just didn't use a dirty word, but it was a slur. in that they underestimated my worth just because I'm a Black man. Okay. But you go in there and the individual treats you because they have a script that came out of the 50s or 60s on this is how I interact with young women. Bull. I call bull on that. And that is something you need to not walk, but run to your either leadership or someone that you trust to say, how do I navigate this? Okay. But do it with respect. And I'm a big one on this. There are times the best action is just leave. Your self-respect is so much more important than that $100,000 donation. I'm just telling you, and any good leader will respect you and that decision that this was a situation that was uncomfortable for these reasons. I hope that helped a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So really looking at, is this, do I feel respected, right? Is this within the acceptable behaviors or whatever that dynamic is? And when you feel like, whether it's spoken rules or unspoken rules, when you feel like those rules are broken and you feel disrespected or potentially feel unsafe, you have to really advocate for yourself and seek out support that you trust and respect. And so what I'm hearing is that those are lessons that you learned from your experience in prison, and they apply to life, as you're calling it, civilian life, but they absolutely are sage advice for any one of our listeners in fundraising or just a nonprofit professional when they encounter those similar circumstances.
Let me talk to that just real quick. It's something you had brought up, because there's a difference between disrespect and feeling unsafe. I'm not saying anything pushing back against what you're saying, but I just want to make sure that the listener understands. Disrespect, I need to go internal and understand, why is that disrespectful to me? So, and I had to change what was disrespectful to me. Okay. I'll give you an example. In my world, you could not call me a punk. That was an automatic violence. Automatic. There was 3 words. One starts with a B, one starts with an N, and punk. I'll use punk because it's the lightest one. But in my community, that's automatic. I get out and someone uses the B word towards me. In fact, it was my wife. And I went to physically assault her. I took one step toward her. I spun around, tears running down my face, because I could not believe a word. And she didn't know the power of that word. She didn't know my community. She didn't know what the self-talk said to me by her vibrating her vocal cords and saying that word towards me. And I said to myself with tears bawling that I would take away the power of that word. And I took away the power of all 3 of those words. Okay. But that was disrespectful to me. That wasn't a threat or a feeling of being unsafe.
Yes.
So my thing is, if you're feeling unsafe physically, and even to a certain extent emotionally, extricate. Okay. Yeah. Leave the situation. This is just my suggestion to the audience. But if it's feeling of disrespect, what I want you to do is finish the meeting. Let's say we're doing a major donor. Finish the meeting, because this is disrespect. The disrespect is, he's an 80-year-old Southern gentleman who said, hey, gal, or hey, girl.
Oh, I've been called honey.
Or honey. Oh, I forgot that one. That's a good one. See, nobody called me, at least not in a major donor way. Hey, honey. And I feel disrespected. Don't you understand? Didn't use my pronouns, whatever it may be. But look at that and say, is this something that I want to hang my hat on? Is this something I'm going to run with as making me feel less than? Or is someone I can talk to about this? This person said this, or, put his hand on my knee. I've heard some stuff, okay? Or wanted a big hug when we left. I don't need to play that. That's not who I am. Some people are real comfortable with that. That's maybe where they're at. But if you're not, don't. Okay. So anyway, it's just something, but that's why I'm a big one on counsel. Okay, counsel.
Yeah. Finding the counsel that you trust. Your story touches on themes around systemic injustice, race, and privilege. What should fundraisers understand about power dynamics specific to the justice and just cultural, the cultural tensions that exist in our communities? We often are working in a variety of communities with a variety of people. And that's part of what makes, I think, the profession so enriching. You're meeting so many different people with different lived experiences and different points of view. And really, it's only when we work together that we come up with systemic solutions. And yet we need to be very respectful and cautious as we have those conversations, just to understand ourselves, to check our personal biases. Like sometimes we don't know what we don't know. Just like the example of your wife using the B word, she loves you. Like she had no intention to disrespect, and yet she did. So talk to us about that. School us on it.
We can talk about cultural bias, systemic injustice. The bigger picture for me is that I want to talk about respect for cultural norms within a community. And I'll give an example. So we had a struggle at the AFP global board level, and that we would do specific events. We have two big ones, LEAD and AFP Icon, during holiday periods of certain religions, whether
Non-Christian
Islamic
religions.
it was Islamic and Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
Because October, you have Yom Kippur, and then we had the Ramadan and the spring. And there are specific things within, obviously, culturally, diet, travel, whatever it may be, that limited specific communities. Of course, there's a balance that has to be brought into play. We spent quite a bit of time looking at what we do. As a individual fundraiser, when you're dealing with community, take some time to learn the norms of that community so that you can respect that individual that's a representative of their community norms or practices. Okay? Mm-hmm. And that was something I had to learn. I had a tendency to look at everybody. I thought everybody thought like I did. I know this is dumb, but I did. I thought everybody thought like I did.
A lot of us feel that way.
Oh, good.
You're not alone. It doesn't make it right, but you're not alone.
Well, I teach the Faculty Training Academy, FTA, at AFP, and I've learned about adult learning styles. And yes, we learn and think differently. So knowing that, again, we're coming back to that respect. It almost comes back again to the word love. And I'm not using this, the beads and whatever, but I'm just talking about just a joy in mankind. Mm-hmm. Just a joy in mankind. And again, we're going back to that philanthropy. But again, let's be specific and look at the cultural norms and do our best. Especially, so much of what we do or what we're talking about is major gift work. At least that's when I'm in capital campaigns. And that we're working with individuals and sometimes organizations at a level that it is eyeball to eyeball, one-on-one. If you're doing annual campaigns, which I love, teach them all the time, we don't have to be as sensitive because we're talking 10,000 people we're doing a mail or two. But I'm still sensitive. We used to call them Christmas campaigns. I call them holiday campaigns. Okay, but 20 years ago, they were a Christmas campaign, an Xmas campaign. And even in the verbiage or in the writing, I don't use those terms, okay, because that's disrespectful for those who are not of either that faith or even in the belief of that holiday gift giving, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah. Ken, you wrote and you just recently, a moment ago, talked about shame and self-forgiveness and your journey in that you felt shame and you had to come to terms with that and explore self-forgiveness. For fundraisers who carry the weight of burnout, who feel that imposter syndrome or self-doubt and who have shame about that. I mean, some of us feel shame of being a fundraiser. I've heard some people refer to like, I'm a professional beggar. And I tell you, it breaks my heart and just makes the hair on my neck stand up when I hear that, because I just have a very different experience of this profession. And so really my question is for you, what practices did you develop that helped you connect with your worth and your purpose, that anyone listening who has shame or feels that dark feeling for whatever reason, lessons and practices that you've developed through your experience overcoming shame and finding self-forgiveness, what can we learn from you in that regard?
There's a lot to unpack, Tammy. Your question.
Deep questions today.
So many tangents or so many different areas, but I'm just going to take a few of them piece by piece. So let's talk about forgiveness and shame. Number one, shame. So there's two aspects. We engage in actions that can leave us with one or two negative feelings about them, about the actions. These are past actions. And those are guilt or shame. And they are so different. Guilt says, I did. Shame says, I am. Shame is a state of being. So guilt says, I did something less than perfect or less than nice or well. Whereas shame says, I am less than. I am less than.
And so the correlation could be, I did something, I feel guilt, and therefore I am something that leads me to feeling shameful. Is that the correlation between the two at times?
It could be. It could be. But what I recommend is working your way from shame to just guilt. Guilt's a lot easier to deal with than shame.
Yeah.
Because shame says, this encompasses me, okay? I am less than.
So it's
I am
identity.
a POS. I am. And because I am, there's nothing I can do to not be what I am. I is what I is. And I am not worthy of love. I am not worthy of success. I am not. I am. We call it, it's the verb to be. It's a state of being. And if you believe that being is not worthy of success, it'll be very difficult for you to have success. Or you can have success and you won't even actualize it or feel it as success. I'd say this to all the time. I can tell more about your self-esteem by how you take a compliment than by how you take a criticism or a delta. If you put down or deflect praise or a compliment, that tells me a lot about your self-esteem. Somebody gives me praise, and I'll be honest, I get it often. I do a lot of good things. Okay, great. I'm like, thank you. And I move on.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't me. That was the team. No, I wasn't that great. And I don't need to do all that. I know my worth. Okay. So the coming back into the shame, I did behavior that I'm guilty of. Yeah, I did those things. I did those things on the streets. I'll just give one. I try to keep this one. I did an armed robbery. I robbed a 7-Eleven. It was like a 7-Eleven. I'm guilty of that. Okay? But I'm not a convict. I'm not. Remember, the name of my book is Becoming Ken. I had a lot of other ways of describing and talking about who I am. I'm a thug. I'm a drug addict. I'm a convict. That's who I am. No, I'm a kind and gentle man today. That's who I am. So I take away the shame. But let's go to the fundraising. So first of all, I learned this. Oh, it was so great for me. I learned this about a week and a half into my career, started in 10. And what I learned was what I do for a living is I thank people. That's what I do, is I thank people. And that is such a beautiful way, at least for me. So that's one. Then there's this. I wrote a grant and we didn't get it. And I was devastated. I am not a good grant writer. I am not a good fundraiser. That's a state of being. And you can talk about that's shame-based. I am not. You talk about the imposter syndrome. Okay. But what it is I'm saying I'm less than. And then what I learned to do is understand the truth of it is that it was an event. It was an experience. I did the best I could at that time with the capabilities I had at that time. But the truth is I didn't get it. But it's not me. It's not about me. It's one of the hardest things to teach major gift officers is to understand if you don't get the gift, because there's only 3 answers. There's no, not now, and yes. 2 of them are not bad. I'll take a not now any day because that gives me a specific time to come back and engage, because you've said, hey, come back in December, end of the year. We're doing some tax things. Great. And I got it in my tickler and I will be there. But anyway, I took away that it's not about me. It's about that event or that experience. And if I need to get better or more competent, I'll do that. But I am competent.
That is a powerful distinction. What is the event? And recognizing that that's completely separate from your identity.
Yeah. 100.
And it's so simple when you describe it that way. But again, it comes back to intention and being presence of mind to pause and to detach those 2 things. Detach the event from your identity. Because you're right. I mean, fundraising can have what's viewed as rejection. And it's really not rejection of us as individuals. It's not a reflection on necessarily our skill. It's not a reflection on who we are as a human or our value. There are so many variable environmental and situational contributing factors to it, right? Not the right timing. My daughter's wedding is in the summer. I've got 3 kids at university right now. Just can't make it happen. So it's a powerful lesson. So I hope our listeners will hold on to that. And I think it's extraordinary how you were able to come to that distinction to really distinguish, the events of your past and who you are as Ken, like becoming Ken, who you are as a human. Ken, you had to rebuild your life from scratch, right? You talk about that in the book, rebuilding your life from scratch. What does resilience look like to you? And how does that apply to fundraisers in our personal lives and our practical work that we do day in and day out? Resilience.
A term we use a lot of times is to come back from the setback. To come back from the setback. 99% of the listeners do not need to come back as much because they don't have the setbacks that I had. Remember, I had the 4 areas. But your tank will be low at some point in some area. Could be emotional, could be spiritual, sometimes physical, sometimes intellectual. But you can come back from any of those. First thing that I had to understand, and it was somewhat easy for me, what's my baseline? What is my baseline? Better, anyone who knows me, anyone who's worked with, I've been mentoring for 15 years, and I've mentored many, many men. And I always say our fundamental core is truth, What's really going on? So it was pretty easy going into the penitentiary. All I'd do is look in the mirror. I knew what my baseline was. I go in there. I know I haven't read a book in probably 10 years. I know that my vocabulary has shrunk. I had a good vocabulary, but a lot of them I can't use on this. They were good where I was in that community. So I had to work on it, but I knew that. And then I knew emotionally, you got to understand, emotionally and spiritually, I say this, my spiritual was the mustard seed. Anyone knows that parable? The mustard seed. My emotional, on a scale of like 1 to 100, I was at a 2. The day I got arrested, I was going to go one of 2 different ways. And for me, the only way I could end the pain was suicide. I'd already done a suicide attempt, but that was it. But anyway, so I knew that I'm coming in emotionally, maybe a 10 on a scale of 1 to 100. And then spiritually, probably about the same. So anyway, wherever you're at, dear listener, what is your truth? Where is your truth? Okay, so you say, hey, emotionally, I've been struggling with my marriage. Emotionally, I've been struggling with my colleagues. I'm struggling with my relationship with my, supervisor, whatever it may be. You can talk to someone about that, but first of all, know what is the truth? What is my difficulty? This is a good one. I talk a lot about this 3 conversations that you have. Always, it's 3. You have conversations with the external world. You have conversations with God, if you so choose, and you have conversations with self. And usually the one that takes preponderance is self-talk. That's why if you get a compliment, that's coming external. If it's not in alliance or congruence with your self-belief of your worth, it's going to cause angst and it's going to cause emotional discomfort. And so a lot of times you really need to go in, what is my truth? And I say this all the time to the guys, what's my self-talk? What's my self-talk? And so I had to look at that, identify that. And then even when 5-6 years out of getting out of the penitentiary, there were still things I needed to observe and say to myself, Ken, what are you saying to yourself right now? And then how do we change that? Because I don't know about you, Tammy, but there's been times where I've talked bad to me.
Yes.
Just a couple times.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're typically much more critical of ourselves than anyone else in our world.
We can be. But let me say this. I love me. I love me. Ken's a good dude. We used to say on the streets, good people. That was like the highest compliment. He's good people. She's good people. I'm good people. And it is such a relief to be able to look in the mirror and like that person you see. And how'd you get there, Ken? I did a multitude of esteemable things, small, large, some known, many not, okay? And I'm good to me. But first, and I know we're getting a little off, but the first thing is I'm in God's will. When I make decisions, I base them on God first. What's the next indicated correct thing to do? Not the one that gives me the least amount of pain or gives me the most amount of pleasure, but what's the right thing to do? And then I make my decisions based on my wife. And then there's a big, big gap before me or family, extended family, my friends, my road dogs, whatever it may be. Big gap. But God and my wife.
I really love that practice of identifying, like you said, I love me. And you had evidence. You had evidence for the good things that you've done, that you are good people. And I'm going to just challenge our listeners. I want you to keep a list of your good people activities, like the evidence, whether it's the kind word or a wonderful deed or an achievement or just even acknowledging yourself sometimes can make you good people. Like just taking a moment at the end of the day to list out, these are the things that I did that I feel so good about, that really amplify the highest version of me.
Talking about self-esteem, one of my favorite, I teach it. I'm probably doing it at LEAD, AFP LEAD, but I teach it often. I just did a book study for 3.5 months on self-esteem. And in that, one of the things I want to say is this is what I do. I've been mentoring for 15 years. I've probably done over 300 meetings with men for 1 hour, explicit mentoring relationships. And every meeting will get started. And not most of the time they know, but every once in a while I say, you know how we start? You know how we start? I'll say this to the guy. I'm on a Zoom meeting. And he goes, oh, yeah, tell me about a win. I always start with a win. Your win, nothing about me. You're the mentee. And we always start with a win because I want you to hear that this was a win since last time we met. And we do that, multiple times every year when we meet. But also just to get them into the practice of looking at wins.
I love that. And that just builds resiliency. It builds self-love. And when you love yourself, it bubbles over into everyone that comes into the ecosystem, I think.
Let me say one other thing about the resiliency. So resiliency is about, coming back from the setback. But a big part of it is what you do. But a big part about being resilient is what you don't do. It's what you don't do. Okay. And sometimes it's easy to say, oh, I got to do this action, this action, this action. I got to treat this person this way. I got to do this. But a lot of it is, what do I do to control my environment or to limit opportunities for discomfort or pain?
Can you give us an example, Ken?
Sure. For me, I don't go into crack houses. I'll give you a better example. And, I'm talking to adults. I don't flirt ever. I don't not meet with women who are not my wife unless it's business, and she knows it's business. Not that I don't trust myself, but I don't. But I also want her to feel comfortable. And just business. I do a lot of business. But the key thing is something I call, I don't play in the gray. That's something I don't do that protects me. It protects my integrity. Because remember I said, there's certain explicit rules that I stated to my wife when I married her. And I live by those, and I'm 100%, and I've been perfect in those, and I will remain perfect. That's just me saying it out loud. But again, so it's so much of it is your action and then the things that you don't do. Because I'm a big believer. If you do any of the habit books, Charles Duhigg, the other gentleman, which I have all his books on habits, one of the things that they talk about a lot is controlling your environment to create the habit. And I'm very good at controlling my environment, but you can control it to a certain extent. And then there's life.
Yeah. You're thinking of James Clear, Atomic Habits?
Yes. Yeah. James Clear and then Charles Duhigg are both great guys on habits.
Yeah, I love that. Ken, I could talk to you all afternoon. As you share your story with our listeners, as we wrap up this conversation today, what message do you hope fundraisers take with them? Not just about your life, but also about how we as fundraisers show up for others and for ourselves.
Oh, I love it. Number one, help others. There's always someone newer or someone with less experience or someone who's not as seasoned or someone who doesn't know that specific area that you're doing donor relations management or whatever. Help others, share with others. 2, love on others. Love the field. We have a beautiful field, Tammy. I mean, beautiful, because I'm in some other fields and they're not as beautiful as our field. And I'm talking about how we treat each other, how we treat the community. The other thing is invest in self. I'm not invest academically or intellectually, but invest in and this is a big difference even from 15, 20 years ago. Let's say 15 years ago when I first came in, and that we have much more about the soft skills and also investment in your well-being as a human. And so invest in self. And then I always say is another key, get a mentor, not a coach. I mean, you can get a coach. That's paid. A mentor. How do you get a mentor, Ken? You find someone you respect and you admire and ask them, would you be willing to just take maybe 1 hour every 2 to 3 months and just, I'd love to talk to you about my journey. And if they are seeing, they would be so honored that you asked them. Honored is the word. And so I'm just a big, big believer. Oh, yeah, God, there's so much I want to. This is just for fundraisers. Speak, speak, speak. Whether it's a workshop, whether it's your local AFP chapter for 20 minutes, learn how to be comfortable in presenting and speaking. It's also one of the best ways to learn is to teach, period. And if you want to learn how to speak, watch one of Tammy's talks or many of her talks. You are fantastic. I've been there, seen it. Okay.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
And I admire your incredible skill and passion in that area as well. So yes, I agree with all of that. So good. All right.
One more. I know you have
Please.
time. One more. I can't believe I forgot this one. Please identify and be able to articulate your why. Your why. If one is to identify it, but if you identify it, then you should be able to articulate it and be able to say it internally or externally. This is why I do it. Why am I on this podcast? Because I want to give back to this community. I'm not asking you to buy anything from me. Nothing. That's not me. Anybody who's ever seen me present, I never have done that because that's not who I am. I am just so grateful and so thankful for the opportunity to be on this podcast and be on the stages that I am on.
Well, and we're truly thankful that you are on those stages to amplify your message. And I love it. I think I'm just thinking about the words that you've used in this conversation, integrity, empathy, love, respect, dignity, gratitude. I mean, it's just all of the best things in life. That's what sources you, from my view. And honestly, I think that is what fuels our entire sector. So my hope is, and my belief is, that message has resonated with our listeners who are all of those things as well. And that maybe each of you feel even more connected to yourself and who you are in the world by being with our good friend, Ken Miller. So good. Ken, I like to end each episode with a round of rapid fire questions. Sure. Are you game?
We would say I'm down. Come on with it.
All right, you're down for it. Awesome. Down. What's the best fundraising advice you've ever received?
It's not about you.
Amen to that. What book do you recommend to our audience and why?
6 Pillars of Self-Esteem by Nathaniel Branden.
Beautiful. What are the 3 most important traits a successful fundraiser must possess?
Curiosity, love, and a why.
Yeah, powerful. What's your favorite fundraising tool or application?
Tool or application? It's going to sound a little weird. I'm not going to give a name. The one I use more than anything else is Excel.
That's great.
Everybody knows me. Excel and bullet points. I love bullet points.
So good. Now, this question may get you in a lot of trouble because I know you speak at a variety of conferences, but what's your favorite conference and why? It's like saying, what's your favorite child, right? Or your favorite niece or nephew?
So my favorite conference still going to be hands down. It's going to be ICON, which is the AFP International Conference, but I'm a big fan of Nonprofit Storytelling Conference. I'll be speaking there in San Diego. First is in San Diego, and we have such a cool theme this year. It's about movies, and it's going to be awesome. So yes. I'm excited. I'm going to talk about behavioral economics and movies and fundraising. It's going to be so much fun.
What fun. Well, I look forward to seeing you there. And lastly, knowing what you know about fundraising now, what advice would you give your younger self just getting started in the profession?
Probably I would have done more training in major gift work because that's a real skill set to be a good major gift officer. And I probably would have done more training in leadership because I was not as good a team leader as I was to become because I just didn't know.
Awesome. Ken, always a pleasure. thank you again for being here. So if you do want to learn more about Ken, we'll drop a link to his business website, Denali FSP Fundraising and Grant Consultants. We'll include that link in the show notes. If you want to connect with Ken on LinkedIn, we'll also link that. So it'll be an easy connection that you can make. And certainly if you want to read more about his amazing story, we'll include a link to pick up your very own copy of his book, Becoming Ken. So again, we just thank you for joining us today. And Ken, thank you for sharing your wisdom and your lived experience, which I think all of us can really take lessons from that and insights from it to apply to our personal lives, our spiritual life, and certainly our professional lives as fundraisers and nonprofit leaders. What a pleasure. And so everyone, just thank you. Thank you for being you, for showing up for this sector and our communities. And thank you for transforming your fundraising so you can transform the world. We'll talk to you soon.
The Intentional Fundraiser podcast is a Fundraising Transformed original. I'm Trent Thompson, executive producer, CMO, and head of community at Fundraising Transformed and the Modern Institute for Charitable Giving. The Intentional Fundraiser podcast has been recognized by FeedSpot as one of the top 80 fundraising podcasts on the web. This recognition means so much to us, and it wouldn't be possible without your incredible support, encouragement, and thoughtful engagement. Every listen, share, and conversation has helped us grow and reach more passionate fundraisers like you. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to review and rate it 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, and be sure to follow or subscribe wherever you listen. For resources mentioned in this episode and to subscribe to our Scaling Major Gifts newsletter, visit fundraisingtransformed.com.